The first Saturday morning Elias Rowan stepped into the Grand Hawthorne estate, he believed he was walking into the strangest job of his life. By Sunday evening, he had unknowingly become the reason an entire billionaire family would never be the same again. What began as a simple contract to pretend to be a successful CEO's husband for a few weekends turned into a story of sacrifice, healing, and a decision that changed the fate of a fortune forever. None of them expected an 8-year-old little girl with a broken backpack and a father who had already lost everything to remind a powerful family what love was truly worth. Elias had never imagined that life could become so difficult. 3 years earlier he had lost his wife, Naomi, after a sudden illness that left him alone to raise their daughter, Ivy. Every morning before sunrise he prepared breakfast, packed lunches, braided Ivy's hair after watching countless online tutorials, and rushed to his warehouse job before dropping her off at school. Every evening he returned home exhausted, only to become a full-time father again. His apartment was tiny, the furniture was worn, and unpaid bills quietly piled up on the kitchen counter, yet Ivy never complained. She believed her father could fix anything, and that belief became the only reason Elias refused to give up. Meanwhile, across the city, 34-year-old CEO Serena Ashford was fighting a different kind of battle. She had built Ashford Technologies into one of the fastest-growing companies in the country, earning respect from investors and competitors alike. Yet every achievement seemed invisible to her aging father, Victor Ashford. To him, success meant preserving the family name through marriage and heirs. Every family gathering became another reminder that Serena remained unmarried despite building an empire. His disappointment slowly became pressure, and pressure eventually became an ultimatum. Victor announced that his upcoming 70th birthday celebration would also be the occasion to introduce the future leadership of the Ashford family. He expected Serena to appear beside a respectable husband. Without one, he hinted that much of the family fortune would instead go toward distant relatives and charitable foundations. Serena had spent years proving herself in boardrooms, yet suddenly everything seemed to depend on a wedding ring she didn't have. Embarrassed and desperate to avoid another humiliating confrontation, Serena's assistant quietly contacted a prestigious agency that arranged discreet personal contracts for executives. Among hundreds of profiles was one that immediately caught Serena's attention. It wasn't because Elias looked wealthy or sophisticated. It was because every reference described him as dependable, honest, calm under pressure, and deeply devoted to his daughter. The agency explained that Elias only accepted temporary assignments during weekends because weekdays belonged entirely to Ivy. Serena almost rejected the idea. She needed someone polished enough to convince her demanding father. Instead, curiosity led her to meet him. When Elias entered her office, he wore an inexpensive suit that had clearly been altered more than once. His shoes were carefully polished despite showing years of use. He apologized for arriving 2 minutes late because Ivy's school bus had broken down. Rather than making excuses, he simply smiled with quiet embarrassment. Something about his sincerity unsettled Serena. Everyone around her constantly exaggerated their achievements or tried to impress her. Elias did neither. When she explained the unusual arrangement, he listened respectfully before asking only one question. He wanted to know whether pretending to be her husband would ever hurt his daughter's trust. That single concern told Serena more about his character than any background check ever could. They signed the agreement. Every weekend they would appear together at family lunches, charity events, and Victor Ashford's social gatherings until his birthday celebration. Their relationship existed only on paper, with clear boundaries and generous compensation that would allow Elias to finally pay his overdue rent and replace Ivy's leaking bedroom ceiling. The first family luncheon proved exhausting. Wealthy relatives examined Elias as though he were an unwanted guest. They questioned his education, his career, and even his table manners. Serena expected him to become uncomfortable. Instead, Elias answered every question with kindness. When an elderly housekeeper accidentally dropped an expensive serving tray, guests reacted with annoyance. Elias immediately stood to help her gather the broken pieces, asking first whether she had been injured rather than worrying about the shattered crystal. Victor watched the moment silently. For the first time in years, someone inside his mansion had treated an employee like family. Weekend after weekend, similar moments unfolded naturally. Elias remembered every staff member's name. He thanked the gardeners for their work. He complimented the chef personally after every meal. He spent a rainy afternoon helping security guards push a broken delivery truck away from the entrance without caring that his expensive borrowed jacket became soaked with mud. Slowly, the enormous mansion began feeling warmer. Even Serena noticed something unexpected happening inside herself. She found herself laughing more often. Meetings felt less lonely. For years she had believed vulnerability was weakness, but watching Elias patiently comfort Ivy over a scraped knee showed her a kind of strength she had never learned in business school. Victor remained observant. One afternoon he quietly followed Elias into the estate gardens where Ivy had come to spend the weekend. The little girl excitedly collected fallen flowers while her father patiently listened to every story she invented. There were no photographers, no business partners, and no audience. The affection between them was completely genuine. Victor suddenly remembered playing exactly the same way with Serena when she was a child, before endless meetings had stolen his time. The memory hurt. As weeks passed, Victor's health quietly worsened. His doctors warned him to reduce stress, but he ignored every recommendation. Unknown to Serena, he also began rewriting documents inside his private study. Then came his 70th birthday. The estate overflowed with politicians, investors, celebrities, and members of the press. Everyone expected Victor to announce the future of the Ashford Empire. Serena stood beside Elias exactly as planned. For the first time since signing their agreement, pretending no longer felt easy. Somewhere along the way respect had quietly become friendship, and friendship had begun transforming into something neither dared to name. Victor slowly approached the stage carrying a sealed envelope. The room fell silent. He thanked every guest for attending before speaking about success. Everyone expected him to praise wealth, expansion, and influence. Instead, he spoke about loneliness. He admitted that building an empire had cost him moments with his daughter that no amount of money could ever buy back. He confessed that for years he had mistaken achievement for character. Then he looked directly at Elias. Victor explained that this ordinary single father had unknowingly reminded him that true greatness appeared not in boardrooms but in everyday acts of compassion. Wealth could hire brilliant executives, but it could never purchase genuine kindness. He opened the envelope. His lawyers confirmed that his will had been rewritten only days earlier. Rather than attaching Serena's inheritance to marriage or public appearances, Victor left complete control of the company to his daughter unconditionally. A substantial portion of his personal fortune would establish scholarships for widowed parents struggling to raise children alone, inspired by Elias's journey. Another foundation would provide childcare support for working single mothers and fathers across the country. The ballroom remained completely silent. Several relatives looked visibly disappointed. Serena couldn't stop the tears forming in her eyes. For the first time in decades, her father had chosen love over legacy. After the celebration ended, Elias quietly prepared to leave. Their agreement had officially expired. He thanked Serena for giving him an opportunity that had helped secure Ivy's future. He expected nothing more. As he reached the front gate holding Ivy's hand, Serena called his name. She walked toward them without cameras, without executives, and without contracts. She admitted that somewhere between the pretend smiles and weekend dinners, she had discovered something she had spent her entire career searching for, a person who made success feel meaningful. She didn't ask him to become her husband. She simply asked whether they could begin with dinner as themselves. Elias smiled the same gentle smile that had first caught her attention weeks earlier. This time there was no contract to sign. Only hope. Months later, Ashford Technologies introduced family-friendly policies unlike anything in the industry. Flexible schedules, childcare assistance, paid parental leave, and emergency family support became permanent benefits. Thousands of employees discovered they no longer had to choose between careers and the people they loved. The Scholarship Foundation helped countless single parents rebuild their lives, each recipient receiving a handwritten letter explaining that dignity should never depend on circumstance. On sunny weekends, visitors to the Ashford estate often saw Victor sitting beneath an old oak tree while Ivy enthusiastically taught him card games he never quite managed to win. The billionaire who once measured life through balance sheets now measured happiness by laughter echoing across the garden. If this story touched your heart, we'd love to know what moment stayed with you the most and why. Sometimes the greatest inheritance isn't money, power, or property. Sometimes it is the courage to choose compassion when the world expects ambition, to see the worth of ordinary people, and to remember that the richest families are built not by fortune, but by unconditional love, second chances, and hearts willing to change.